within, and she describes her experience in the military, and her work with the programs that she has started is very instrumental in getting people who are suffering, okay, from post traumatic stress disorder. And I will repeat, women who are suffering from post traumatic stress disorder. It's one thing, and I'm a therapist and I've been around for a while, but when I look at post-traumatic stress disorder, I've never looked at it the way I'm looking at it now. So as it moved into the military arena, I began to feel, well, people have post-traumatic stress disorder, and so they are holding back. They're not, they know what's going on with them, but then they are ashamed or afraid, and so they're holding back. I'm finding out by having guests on the show that that's not the case. Ms. Shannon was undiagnosed for 20 years, which means that she went through emotional issues. She went through depression, anxiety, and not knowing what was going on with her. And even if you can remember, how many of us have woke up in the morning and said, wow, why do I feel so bad? Okay, if anyone asks you, well, why are you feeling bad? You would say, I don't know, I just feel bad. Or you can flip it by remembering when you woke up some morning feeling good. I feel great this morning. What a beautiful morning. Okay, and if anyone asks you, what you've been drinking something or what? No, I haven't. I just feel good. That's the subconscious. Okay, things that are in our subconscious are still alive and well. We're just not conscious of it all the time. So Miss Shannon really, really did a great job with us, and we're going to have her back. And then we had on board Miss Stephanie McGraw, and she is the founder of WARM, which is an acronym for We All Really Matter, which is an organization that helps people escape abusive relationships. And of course, Miss McGraw shared her story with us. And she came into the studio. It wasn't a phone interview. She was right here in the studio. I was able to look her in the eyes as she spoke, and I was able to appreciate the courage that this woman has in order to not only tell her story, but also to get involved with other people's problems and situations that she can relate to. Now, let me just explain what I mean by that. If I'm suffering from something, it seems that the longer I can sort of hold on to it and maybe get help for it, and then at some point it'll go away. It'll sort of subside. If it's showing itself as depression or anxiety, at some point it will sort of like die out or sort of phase out. But when you are doing the work that Miss Shannon and Miss McGraw is doing, you're constantly, it's almost like peeling off a scab. You're constantly exposing yourself to the trauma, to the experience through others. And to be able to step aside of your area of concern to help someone else, okay, that is wonderful, and I think it's very beneficial to all of us. And I'm hoping that when people do that they in turn get something from it. There's an old saying in Alcoholics Anonymous, you have to give it away in order to keep it. That's a concept in the 12-step program. As a matter of fact, that really speaks to the 12th step. After having learned the 11 steps, I took the story out and shared it with others. So to give it away is sometimes receiving. And while I'm on AA, it's I knew a sponsor once who told me that that he is available to his sponsees 24/7. This was about 35 years ago. I said 24/7. I said, what do you mean by 24/7? He says, well, my sponsees can call me anytime, night or day. I said, what if you're sleeping? What in the middle of the night? Anytime. He says, the only restraint that I put on them is don't call me after you have drank. Don't call me after you've drank. Just we'll talk about it at another point. But if you haven't had that drink, give me a call. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And so, of course, I said, well, then what is in it for you? You're getting up. He said, nope. You got to give it away in order to keep it. He says, when I'm talking to a sponsee at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm being fed also. Okay, my recovery is being strengthened also. So that is a beautiful, beautiful concept in terms of helping other people. Now, I want to talk about for a few minutes before we go on the break the areas of concern that I would like to moving forward. I would like to concentrate on, and it is every Monday I'm on the show. My show is from 9. Mental Health for Better Living is from 9 to 10. And so what I would like to do, aside from having guests on randomly, I would like to designate Mondays for specific issues. Like, for instance, I would like to, it doesn't have to be the first Monday, it could be any Monday, first, second, third, fourth Monday. I don't know if there's any month of the Mondays, or there are 5 Mondays, but I would like to designate, just by talking, the first Monday of each month, let's say, to address veteran issues. And this will include discussions and resolutions, because part of the show is to find answers to challenges of mental health, and to deal with special needs of people. And of course, our returning veterans, there are special needs for this population, especially mental health issues around post-traumatic stress disorder and the high rate of suicides. I had here some statistics which really bothered me, and it just stuck with me. The first time some of the veterans I spoke on this was the amount of veterans who commit suicide each day, not year, each day. And on this show, I was very, very proud. My technician here, Mr. Anthony Albrighton, was also on the show, and he was served in the Navy from 1983 to 1990. And then we had Mr. Mitchell, who also was in the service, and he served. He actually had active duty. Mr. Sergeant, we call him Sergeant Reginald Mitchell, and he served in the United States Army from 1990 to 2011, and was in active duty. And he currently suffers with post-traumatic stress disorder. And then on the show, finally, we had Mr. Johnny H. Williams, who is the founder of Helpers on the Way for Veterans, which is an organization that support our men, our returning soldiers coming home. So that was a lively show, but it showed me something that was common denominator was that these guys and gals, gave their time. They were in a space and time where they really weren't in control of their movements or their direction or wherever they were. So when you're in the service, from what I can understand, is you have to take orders. The key to surviving the military is that you have to be able to take orders. You have to be able to open up a letter, and if it says go left, go left. If it says go right, go right. Even that right there is traumatic. I mean, I can imagine, being inducted into the service and being put in a situation where you can't say no. You just have to do what you're told to do. Okay, and so how much of that play on these guys when each morning they wake up and they can be ordered to go to Afghanistan, they can get an order to go to Alaska or some remote part of the world. And I'm saying all that to say that these individuals, they're Army personnel, but each of them, as I spoke earlier in the show, are individuals, okay? So when these individuals return home, what are they coming into or back into? I mean, I'm quite sure if you've done, I think Mr. Albrighton was in the service from 1983 to 1990, and I think you had mentioned that when you came back, you came home and then you made a U-turn.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I did make a U-turn,
mm-hmm, and you went back to Spain. Tell us a little about that one. What happened there?
I think like what happens to most veterans when they come back, the adjustment when you come back to the States. You've been in uniform for a certain period of time, and you get accustomed to a different lifestyle. You know where you need to be, what you have to do. So once I got out, the adjustment was I didn't belong here. So so I turned back around because I spent so much time outside of the United States, doing my traveling. So the adjustment was very empty.
Right.
When you first come back, it's almost like a shock.
Yeah.
You take off your uniform, you walk out the gate closes, and then
Right.
So that's why on the show that we had, the few shows that we had, which I'm very grateful that we have the opportunity to talk about things like this. But we spoke about exit counseling.
Right.
What happens when you're about to get out, because sometimes people get out not because they want to, because in my case I injured my foot, so I had planned to be a combat cameraman, and I was looking forward to go, and do some other things. But because of the injury, you can't run. You don't want to have someone behind you,
Right.
and you're not physically fit to do your job. So, I had no other choice. But as far as the adjustment coming back to the States, we also interviewed Mariette, who is in charge of the Veterans Affairs,
Exactly.
who also suffered from PTSD, and she mentioned the exact same thing. Once you come out, you take off your uniform. It's like it's a shock when you first get out, and in my opinion, it doesn't. When you spend a lot of time in the military, it's not necessarily that you have to be in combat all the time. The adjustment coming back to the States is very different, and she made a good point about in World War II, when the Korean War, the soldiers had a chance
to
the traveling time,
to get back.
Right.
They had a time to sort of like
to decompress. So that was a very, very good point. And today, as we see it, you could be in Iraq one day and be on 42nd Street
16
tomorrow.
16 hours from my God, from all of them.
So the you have no time to decompress.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're in a new world.
Right.
So and that takes time. That takes time to adjust.
Right. When Anthony, when you first was explaining that, I'm listening. And I'm trained to listen. Okay. And you said I came home, and then you said there was nothing here. Okay,
right.
So that must have been trauma right there, enough to make to cause you to get back on a plane and go back. Okay, And I'm wondering, while you was going through that, who was listening to you? I mean, were you going through that alone?
Well, I think what happens, and we mentioned that in another show, like when veterans come home and they're with their families, and during the holidays, yes, everyone's there. But that veteran is still in a different world in their mind.
Right.
Right. So, and families may not understand that. They're
Right.
glad to see you, of
Right.
course. You get your hugs and your kisses, and you're glad to see you. But when I talk about the adjustment, is when you're in the military, you have a job, you have a place to live, you have your paycheck, and you know where you can go to eat. Once you get out and you come back to the States, first thing I find is a roof over your head, which in certain wars, when the veterans came back, for example, in Levittown, they were given loans, houses, and they had what they needed, although some veterans didn't get that at certain times. But housing is really important for a veteran when they come back, and no veteran should be homeless.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? No veteran should be homeless when they come back. So that's one thing that I look at. I try to remember and be grateful for. But when I came back, where are you gonna go?
Right.
Right. You need a place to stay? So are you gonna sleep with your family, or is the military gonna make some provisions?
Exactly.
So for veterans to come back, when you hear about veterans going off to war and then coming back and losing their homes, that or having serious credit problems.
Right.
After being deployed to serve your country,
Right.
that's another issue. But there are doors that you can knock on. I mean, Johnny Williams, they help out so much, and that's what got me on track by visiting and helping me out with my education and getting me on my feet. It did take a while You know, like Mariette said, that there's a lag time.
Right.
But you know, the resources are there.
Right.
But I would hope that everyone understands that when a veteran comes back, you have to understand what they're going through mentally.
Right.
You know, because when you move from one environment
Right.
to another, there's an adjustment.
Right. And your story really shows us, it really sort of make a tremendous contrast between what was going on in your mind. Okay, you know, you were able to get on a plane, which was therapeutic.
Right.
Okay, you know, I mean, not that you have any great love for Spain,
Right.
but when you got back here and there was nothing.
Right. I sought the place where I was most comfortable.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so you look for, some people may call it a comfort zone,
Exactly.
but you want to be in an environment where you're comfortable, and that's the environment that I knew.
Exactly.
And I was comfortable in, and believe it or not, I didn't have a problem finding a place to live.
Exactly.
like here in New York.
Yeah,
So it was it's different, because if you come back, you need all types of credit. You couldn't, you
need to get back involved.
Right.
with
You
the
try
system.
to look for an apartment, even though, I mean, you know, when I finally came back, I mean, I went to work right away. You know, I was able to crash out on my mom's couch, and then automatically, you know, I worked, bought a car, got a room, and then just kept going forward. You know, but imagine people who are suffering from mental illness that come back and don't have that support.
And not only don't have the support, but they come back in an environment that doesn't know how to recognize that they need the support.
Right.
Okay, you know, which brings me to a project that I'm working on now. It's in the thinking stages, but it's all coming out of this, and why I want to have a ongoing dialogue. Okay, because first of all, when I hear of 22 people who kill themselves every day, okay, you know, as a Christian, we believe that when you commit suicide, you go directly to hell. It's like there's no help after that. You see, you know, so I'm concerned on the spiritual level about that.
On the spiritual level, that is true too. I mean, it's when I was in the military, there were people who did commit suicide, and people who made attempts, and one was actually a friend. And for me, it was a shock, because I was a photographer. So anytime something like that happened, I had to go take photos of the scenes.
Okay.
So and I actually wrote a poem at that time, and I couldn't understand, because I felt that, you know, seeing my friend trying to take his life, he wasn't a close friend, but we were from New York. So we all, you know, you always bond with people closer to where you live. But in my mind, I felt that, I said, it had to be such a selfish thought to take your life from, you know, the people that love you. But you don't understand what the people are going through, and that's why you know, the veterans need so much more help.
Right.
You know.
Right. You know, the mind of a person. I'm talking specifically about our veterans who are coming back from, you know, from the war. You know, you would say, like, for instance, I hear that a lot in suicide. You know, that was kind of selfish that you would do that you would leave us that way. However, that also points to the seriousness and the intensity of what a person is going through.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sitting around a birthday party, I'm singing happy birthday, but inside is just going into all kinds of places that I can't express. You know? So so what I'm doing, what I'm working on is a pamphlet. It's like a brochure that's going to get all of the families involved with the returning military person. In other words, it's not going to be a clinical. The family's not going to turn into a psychotherapy group team. But I'm going to suggest that the family engage in certain activities. Okay.
That's very important.
Okay, with the person coming in. Okay, so let's say if we're going to have a little get together for, let's say, for Johnny, you know, who just came back from Afghanistan, we call it that. We call it that, and then we, you know, and Johnny, when he gets comfortable, as he's singing Happy Birthday, he may say, "Do you know how I was feeling when that car was coming toward the tank?" Okay, you know, okay, so just to know, sometimes just to know you support me, you know,
the family is really important.
To get them more involved.
Right,
you know?
It's really important that the family understands what veterans go through. It's really, really, really important, and mental health in general. regardless of what ailments the person may have. It's very important that the family understand, you know, and not shun away from
Exactly.
from people. Oh, he said, you know, I had a friend the other day. We were talking, and her husband was actually in the military, and she said she enjoyed listening to the show because now she understands what he was going through.
Right.
She said
Right.
to me, she said, you know,
Right.
I used to tell him, oh, you must have bipolar or something like that, because he was deployed twice. But after listening to the show, she said, you know, Anthony, now I understand what he was going through, even though they're not together anymore. But she says, now I understand what he was going through after listening to the show. So, I mean, we did help one person, so it's a good thing.
And I think that more people need to. I think that if this moves forward like we're doing, it's going to catch on. You know,
Right.
like it's going to catch on like a match in the forest. You know, it's going to catch on, and people are going to like be able to say, hey, you know, I can talk about that.
Right.
Okay, you know, from listening to yourself, listening to Reggie, listening to Johnny, listening to Miss the veteran. I'm sorry,
Mariette.
Listen to Mariette. You know, we'll say, wait a minute, that's me. Okay,
Right.
you see, and I think that if we can save lives in what we're doing here, and I think that's what we were doing. It's
Right.
almost like polio. I mean, once you find the cure, you just get to take the shot. Okay,
Right,
and I think that's
right.
what we need. We just cannot take people and put them in those type of stressful situations, okay, and then bring them back, to the States at the rate of speed a jet
Right.
plane goes.
That's very interesting, because
Okay.
you have no time to decompress. So
I think I had mentioned when I was when Margie, my wife, and I, when we go to Florida. Okay, you know, when I first began to go to Orlando, right? I get on the plane, you know. Now I got all these patients, I got all this stuff going on in my mind. Okay, whatever attitude, whatever you want to call it. But we get to Florida so fast. I got off the plane, mad at something, you know, and I said, wait a minute, the sun is shining. Why am I feeling this way? Then I realized you got to come down.
Right,
Okay, so
right.
imagine bringing a person from Afghanistan. Okay, and they're back in the States walking
Right.
on 42nd Street
Right.
in less than 16 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
From one day, you know, maybe bombs are dropping, and the next day a horn is blowing. You know,
Strangely
so-
enough, when you were talking about your situation of coming back home and then leaving, for some reason, I thought about I must have been 17, 18. I was in Queens, way out in Queens, and I got off the bus. I got off at the wrong stop. And I didn't know where
you were.
I was. I knew
Right.
I was on the ground. I knew there was cement and there was a tree, but where am I? Okay, so
Right.
imagine that being a reality, okay, to a
Right.
person returning from years of having to, you know, brace themselves, you know,
Right.
for the worst, you know. So I appreciate you. I appreciate, you know, all of the people that are going to come on board, you know, to talk about this. And there are other areas. I mean, there are sexual issues. There are, you know, housing issues. There are racial issues. You know, there are all kinds of issues that we can address on the show, and I look forward to doing that. Okay, so maybe we could take a couple of minutes break, and then we'll finish off when we come back with what I call a proposal.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared.
We're back. You're listening to Mental Health for Better Living. I'm your host, Dr. Leon Dickerson, and this is a special edition of Mental Health for Better Living. And so when we broke the last segment, we were talking about veterans, and Anthony was giving us some insight about, his feelings and how, he didn't, sort of acclimate back into our society coming from the service. And we imagine that applies to a lot of veterans who are coming back. And when I say veterans, I'm talking about all veterans. All wars have produced some form of post-traumatic stress disorder and other problems and issues. However, each war, I believe, when you study World War II, the enemy had a uniform on. Everybody had on a uniform. The Japanese had a uniform. The Germans had a uniform. So everybody was more identified in terms of who the enemy was. Then from Vietnam forward, we are fighting an enemy that don't look like a soldier. We continue to look like soldiers, but they don't. And I can imagine the stress and the fear that goes through a person's mind when actually you are a moving target. When you have your Army uniform on in Iraq or any of Afghanistan, you are a moving target because the enemy that you're fighting don't have on anything that you can identify. So those are parts of what I think are the stress that we suffer. And of course, if there's no help for it, it becomes post-traumatic stress disorder. Before I move on to the next topic, I want to give out a telephone number to our veterans who are listening. It's called the Veteran Military One Source. The name of the program is called Military One Source, in which I am a counselor. I'm a counselor for Military One Source. I do work with the veterans. But there is a crisis line. It's called 800-273-TALK, okay? It's 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. So if you've gotten anything from this show thus far this morning, call this number and someone will talk with you and help you to deal with whatever issues you may be having at this point. So that's how important we think it is. As a matter of fact, there was an article called "The Enemy Within" regarding soldier suicides. Now get this, soldier suicides in the year 2012 outpaced combat death. That means that more soldiers died by their own hand than died in combat, okay, in the year 2012. And these statistics can be found in the Department of Defense statistics, okay? So when we have these kind of numbers going on, I personally am not going to sit on it. I'm going to really, really use every opportunity that I get to get the message out there, and then just make people aware that, hey, we're here for you, and then to do just that. Now, in terms of proposal, a proposal is something that you write, and expect something in return. I'm calling it a proposal because I've gotten a renewed strength and vitality to do the show, and an appreciation of people who had faith in me that I could do the show. I've never done radio before. Well, I am on a religious program every fourth Sunday. It's called The Gospel Truth, and it's strictly a biblical type of experience. And I've had that kind of exposure. But this is a little different here. I'm in the village of Harlem, and there's a lot of silent issues. When I say silent issues, it's I can see a homeless person, but if I don't talk to that homeless person, it's a silent issue. How many times am I, getting ready to get on the Cross Bronx Expressway or what have you, and somebody walk up to the window, and asking for money or asking for some type of help, and you can't because the light turns green and you got to move on, So this is something that I think when we talk about mental concerns that we are all involved with it. Okay. So the first Monday, let's say we're going to deal with the veterans issues. The second Monday of the month, I'm looking to address addiction. And I will draw on topics mostly taken from my book, Freudian Concepts of Id, Ego, and Superego. This is my book, Freudian Concepts of Id, Ego, Superego. And here I break down the addiction process, okay, so that we can deal with addiction, okay, and for what it is. And we will discover in discussing articles and issues that I've dealt with in this book, that addiction is the same definition for everyone who's addicted to something. Addiction is a behavior that gets us in trouble, and despite the consequences of the trouble it gets us into, we continue the behavior. That's addiction, okay? So that if I am a sex addict, or am I a gambling addict, or I'm a food addict, okay, or a drug addict, all of these different modes of addiction are they represent the same addiction. They're just behaviors. They're just expressions. So if I drink, if I'm an addict and I drink, if I'm an addict that I have a sexual addiction or food addiction, they all are part of that same definition. They are destructive behaviors that I cannot stop on my own. So we're going to have professional people on and lay people, okay, to talk about their addiction. And the last, but not least, which would bring us only to 3 Mondays, and the fourth Mondays I would like to leave open, is going to be, I would like to use that Monday, maybe the third Monday, as a topic to have regular people on. When I say regular, just people who want to come on the show, okay, and talk about their lives and talk about some obstacle that they may have hurdled, and as a result of listening to the show. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Let's say a veteran this morning was listening to Anthony describe when he came home, he could not acclimate, so he got right back on the plane and went back to Spain. I'm quite sure, people hearing that was, oh my God, that's what I wanted to do, but I couldn't for whatever reason. That I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to do something. So call in, okay? And we're going to have that first Monday of the month where you can call in and speak to Anthony and speak to Sergeant Mitchell and myself in terms of the therapy that I do in my office, and so that we can start to heal as a group. Okay, so when I have individuals on the show, I would like you to share your own story, because if you remember in the beginning of the show, I spoke on how valuable the individual is. Okay, we could talk about groups of people. If you look at a Super Bowl, you see thousands of people are coming together, and we call that to watch a game. But those people are made up of individuals, okay? Each person having a heart, a mind, a soul. So we want to make sure that everybody feel the experience of being an individual. So when you call onto the show to tell us your story is a story that we all need to hear. And I, for one, need to hear it. And I think that, it's going to do all of us some good. I wrote a book called Dr. Dickerson, His Dissertation in God. And it's interesting that most of the people that I've had on the show who have also are authors, and they have written about their experiences. And so my book, Dr. Dickerson, His Dissertation in God, is about my life. It's an autobiographical study of chemical addiction and personal recovery. And when I first, when the book first came out, people thought, well, Dr. Dickerson, what are you, ego tripping? Dr. Dickerson, this book is all about yourself. You're just ego tripping, And a lot of people, I would imagine, didn't read it because of that. But there's a deeper story there. Dr. Dickerson went through a lot of changes here in Harlem. I mean, I was running up and down the street, and I was struggling with drugs and homelessness and all the things that I deal with in my office, I have gone through. So there I am in 1994 at New York University, proudly, sitting there with this, the doctor's gown is a little heavy, when I got the bachelor's, I got the master's, but the doctoral gown is this heavy, this felt, and this, so I'm sitting there with all this weighted stuff on. I'm saying, wow, I did it, I made it, But then James Earl Jones was the keynote speaker, and he was speaking about giving back. And I'm sitting there, and I realized I could have walked out of that commencement exercise being Dr. Ph.D. Dickerson, and people, I'm Dr. Dickerson. Oh, your parents must be doctors, or your father. No, my mother was on welfare. My father died from alcoholism. I came through the drug-ridden streets of the ghetto in 1969, and I said to myself, sitting there, I'm not going to let people off the hook. Now, whether it was a social issue, whether it was a political issue, whether it was a racial issue that caused me to stumble, but I made it. So I'm going to write about that. And what I did is compile. This book is photographs. It's compiled of compilation of photographs, poetry, and essays. And the dissertation is kind of technical, but the dissertation is in the book because a teacher told me in the 8th grade that I could not go to Benjamin Franklin High School because I was in 8-6 as opposed to 8-1 or 8-2. So I put that in there, and this is dedicated to the guidance counselor who told this kid that he couldn't go to college. Okay, and of course, and God is my religious conversion, my religious experience, and anybody who's in recovery from anything, drugs, alcohol, and anything, will embrace God. They will embrace a higher power. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for listening to me this morning, and I am going to promise myself to get more on top of what I need to do here at WHCR 90.3 FM. And I'm not going to give any excuses. I was trying to give Anthony an excuse last night. And he says, I'll tell you what, just come on down to the station and we can continue the conversation. So here I am, and I really appreciate him for that. I have one more announcement. There's a flyer I have here. It says free aviation employment workshop for veterans. Free aviation employment workshop for veterans, okay? And it's going to start March 31st, 2015. And we're going to learn how military leadership skills and values can lead to positions at JFK Airport with Edge 4 vets. Now, that's beautiful. Now, they're going to take what you've already experienced and learned while you were away in the military to apply it right here at home. It's going to be Tuesday, March 31st, 2015, so I'll be able to announce this again next week, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it's at the Radisson Hotel, JFK. And that's 1350 140th Street, Jamaica, New York. Okay, and the phone number is area code. Let me see, there's not a phone number here.
It's just a website.
Okay, it's just a website. Okay, you can visit a website. It's called edge4vets.org. That's EDGE, the number 4 vets, VETS.org. EDGE4VETS.org. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next Monday, and where we will continue our discussions on lively issues and topics of concern. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Hey, this is Donna, and I want to personally invite you to my restaurant, Home Sweet Harlem. Home Sweet Harlem is a lovely American bistro located at 1528 Amsterdam Avenue between 135th and 136th Streets. You can join us for a good cup of coffee, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Our menu includes heart-healthy foods like a variety of fresh mixed salad greens, grilled garlic shrimp, smoothies, and fresh juices. The amazing St. Nicholas Park turkey burger and the grilled marinated chicken kebabs are among our most popular dishes. Our weekend brunches include a delicious farmer skillet, which is a baked omelet, and it's baked in a cast iron skillet and served with homemade biscuits. We also offer an affordable meeting space for community groups, art shows, and live music. That's Home Sweet Harlem, located at 1528 Amsterdam Avenue between 135th and 136th Streets. You can reach us at 212-926-9616.
Welcome to WHCR's Community Calendar, keeping you abreast of events in Harlem and throughout the tri-state area. The following events will take place from Friday, March 13th through Friday, March 20th, 2015. On Saturday, March 14th at 8 a.m. is the first ever New York Roadrunners Times Square Kids Run at the United Airlines NYC Half. This event will give kids a chance to stop traffic in Times Square while they run a thrilling 1,500 meters. All kids will receive an official event souvenir. This event is free, and for more information, visit nyrr.org. On Sunday, March 15th, from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. at La Maison de Art Gallery is the Sugar Hill Market. Harlem's popular brownstone market will be indoors with 2 floors of designers and artisans who create everything from fashion and home furnishings to beauty products and artisan foods. This event is free and open to the public, and for more information, call 718-593-4108. On Thursday, March 19th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Riverbank State Park is the 20th New Works and Young Artists Series. Join Ice Theater of New York for the signature educational program geared towards public school students from Harlem, Washington Heights, the Bronx, and Queens. Talented student apprentices will perform alongside professionals in free performances. For more information on this event, call 212-929-5811. On Friday, March 20th at 10:30 a.m. at the George Bruce branch of the New York Public Library, Dances for a Variable Population presents the Movement Speaks Harlem Workshop. Celebrate moving in strong and creative ways. Older adults of all ages and abilities are welcome. For more information on this free event, call 347-683-2691. If you have an event that you would like to place on our calendar, please call 212-650-7481 or email communitycalendar@whcr.org. Submissions must be made 3 to 4 weeks prior to the event. This is Huma Saida for WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Variedades Latinas es música, alegría, entretenimiento.
Inconfundible. Ay, amor, qué bella estás. No me quiero despedir y me tengo que marchar. Ya me voy. Hasta pronto, bésame, que quiero sentir tu piel antes del amanecer. Quiero hacerte el amor, pero mañana no estaré para vernos otra vez en el lugar donde siempre hicimos el amor. Me marcho, pero te juro que por ti yo volveré. Tú solo espérame aquí, ten fe, y ya verás que nuestro amor no queda en vano. Oh, me marcho y desde allá miles de rosas te enviaré. De aquel perfume que te encanta le echaré. Quiero que sepas, vida mía, que te extraño. Oh, me marcho, pero te juro que por ti yo volveré. Tú solo espérame aquí, ten fe, y ya verás que nuestro amor no queda en vano. Bien sabes que eres tú, mi amor por siempre. Esa es la guitarra que llega al alma. Óyela, óyela. Esta bachata está para que la baile hasta el cojo. Sé que no quieres hablar, porque no quieres pensar que de ti me olvidaré. Prometo que no, solo voy a trabajar para así poder triunfar, y luego yo volveré para estar contigo. Pero muy pronto no estaré para vernos otra vez en el lugar donde siempre hicimos el amor. Me marcho, pero te juro que por ti yo volveré. Tú solo espérame aquí, ten fe, y ya verás que nuestro amor no queda en vano. Oh, me marcho y desde allá miles de rosas te enviaré. De aquel perfume que te encanta le echaré. Quiero que sepas, vida mía, que te extraño. yo volveré. Tú solo espérame aquí, ten fe. Y ya verás que nuestro amor no queda en vano. Bien sabes que eres tú, mi amor forever. Mi amor por siempre. La escuchen los sordos y la canten los mudos.
John Martínez. Ay, fui un iluso al pensar que mis labios eran dignos de los tuyos. Ay, te fue tan fácil pronunciarme el para siempre más corto de la historia. Ay, qué mal se ha portado tu amor. Llegó como una tortuga y se me fue como un conejo, dejando malherido un sentimiento cuando más prendido estaba de mi alma. Ay, fuiste esa flor que ocultaba, que por debajo estaba llena de espinas. La que a la vista eres la rosa más tierna y por debajo solo clavan tus espinas. Ay, eres como la tierra mala que no da fruto aun con la mejor semilla. En ti no crece ni la mala hierba y de tus labios solo nacen mentiras. Mi delito ha sido amarte y mi sueño tenerte. Ha sido en vano poseerte y una agonía no olvidarte. Porque fuiste la flor que ocultaba, que por debajo estaba llena de espinas. La que a la vista eres la rosa más tierna y por debajo solo clavan tus espinas. Ay, eres como la tierra mala que no da fruto aun con la mejor semilla. En ti no crece ni la mala hierba y de tus labios solo nacen mentiras. ¡Tumba! John Martínez. Ay, fui tan iluso al pensar que en este pueblo yo era el único amor tuyo. Ay, ¿de qué sirvió yo ser tan bueno si me pagaste siendo infiel en mis narices? Ay, debes de dar gracias a Dios por haberte creado sin conciencia. Porque si habías tenido, habías pagado todo el daño y el dolor que me has causado. Porque fuiste la flor que ocultaba, que por debajo estaba llena de espinas. La que a la vista eres la rosa más tierna y por debajo solo clavan tus espinas. Ay, eres como la tierra mala que no da fruto aun con la mejor semilla. En ti no crece ni la mala hierba y de tus labios solo nacen mentiras. ¡Tumba!
Para mí fue difícil conquistar otro amor que cuidara de mí.